Welcome back to episode 3 of the OBI Bengals Fan Highlight. We're joined this week by the Bengals captain and his wife, Jess. They are going to be, of course, the first week was Bengal Jim, and then we have Tony the Tiger. So now we're moving on probably to the two of the most recognizable faces that you'll see when you watch Bengals on TV or when you go to a game and you see them on the Jumbotron. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. It's great. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great.
Feeling great.
Good.
Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely.
Oh no! Thank you guys for coming on. These have been a lot of fun, and we're getting a really good reaction out of it. So thanks for putting aside a little time for us.
Yeah. So the first question, I'll ask Jess. I'll ask you first. Just what's your first memory as a Bengals fan? First thing you can think of when you think of being a Bengals fan. What's the first thing that pops in your mind?
You know, probably my most real memory was my first game that I went to, which was in 2010. So it's not like I was a small child or anything, but I remember being a child in Cincinnati and loving the Bengals and having I had my Bengals shirt. It was my favorite sweatshirt ever. And there's a lot of photos of me in it as a child, because you know how kids are, they pick one thing and they don't take it off. So that was my thing when I was a child. And I remember just, hearing about the Bengals and being around the Bengals, but I never went to a game until 2010. So that was probably 2010 was probably my first real memory. And seeing Chad Johnson on the sideline, that was probably the highlight of that whole day for me.
Love you. I feel like Chad Johnson stars in quite a few first memories for Bengals fans.
Yep. 2010, that was, let me think here. 2010 was Carson Palmer's last year. Yeah, that was the TO year. Yeah, that was my last year of season tickets. So, and then Captain, how about you? What's your first memory as a Bengals fan?
Well, you said that was the last year you had season tickets. That was the last year I didn't.
Oh,
so,
okay. All right.
As you know, huge expectations for 2010, and injury and other issues. It was a complete nightmare. A lot of fans were upset. I may have bought your seats. I don't know. But a lot of fans had wanted to jump off and said, you know what, I'm done. I met her and had always dreamed of having season tickets and found somebody that I don't want to say the discount that they gave, but it was peanuts to get rid of the COA. And we've been season ticket holders ever since. But my first memory, 1988 Super Bowl. Single mom, we were always working on something, doing mom son things, trying to get puppies, trying to train puppies, feeding puppies milk. You're not supposed to do that. Finding another puppy. Puppy was okay. We weren't really good dog people at the time. Didn't know, anybody
who matters.
Exactly. So moved to Tennessee, and I think that was like right around that 88 Super Bowl. I loved Garfield, and all the kids in Tennessee were making fun of me, like, Bengals aren't going to win. I was young enough. I'd never watched football before. So I'm like, we got to watch. And of course, turn the TV on, Garfield's an orange cat with black stripes, helmets, orange with black stripes. That's
there
it.
You go.
That's
who would have thought that one of the most recognizable Bengals fans in the world fell in love with the Bengals because of a comic strip cat?
Probably the weirdest. Probably the weirdest. How'd you become a fan? Yeah.
But you know what's funny about that story, and I love that story. I think it's precious. But the funny thing is that when we talk to people overseas that are fans, we ask them the same questions, because it's amazing to me, because I was born and raised in Cincinnati. There was like no other choice for me, I felt like. But to talk to people overseas that become fans, one of the big things that stands out to them was the helmets and seeing the helmets on TV. And that was a big draw for a lot of people who didn't have a team, didn't have any loyalty to any particular city. So I love that story, because it really kind of highlights how cool and groundbreaking those helmets were. Nobody else in the league was doing cool helmets like that. Everybody else had the sticker logo plastered on the side. So I love that story, and I think it really resonates with a lot of overseas
I'm sure it does,
a lot of people that aren't from Cincinnati. So
Joe Goodberry, which you guys have to know.
We love
he
Joe.
has a very similar story. Did not grow up around here, but picked him because of the helmets. It was if you're young enough, that really those helmets are undeniably cool. Like you cannot get away from how cool they are.
Still the best in the NFL by far.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
and I love that they've kept them all these years too. Yeah, I love Joe and Glenn, and I was talking with them because Glenn is a Buffalo fan, and that's where they're from. That's where they live, is in New York. And I asked him, I said, "How did Joe become a Bengals fan and you became a Buffalo fan?" And he said, "I think it's because my mom was in love with Boomer Esiason." Also relatable. So
I get it. Well, the next question will be who was a Bengals fan first, but Kevin, I think we're gonna go ahead and skip that one.
I think I am
interested. You guys was one of you a fan and the other one a super fan? Did you guys meet and both had this just love of the Bengals right off the bat? I mean, how does it go? Because my wife is a massive Bengals. Well, my wife's a massive Bengals fan now, but she was a casual fan before she met me until she realized how seriously I took Sundays. And now she's sitting on the couch yelling and cheering with me. I was just curious, did one of you guys lead the other one in, or was it just meant to be?
So I'll just come out and say there's a 10-year age gap. So technically she was probably a fan first because from wee little.
I always joke that I was born a Bengals fan, and the day after I was born, we lost to the Steelers. So the day I was born, I became a Bengals fan, and the day after I was born, I hated the Steelers, and I've hated them ever since. So that's always my running joke. But now, when we first met, he asked me if on our very first date, he said, "Do you cheer for any sports teams?" And we live in Columbus. We've lived in Columbus for a while. And I said, "Well, I'm originally from Cincinnati, so I always cheer for the Bengals and the Reds, and I grew up going to Reds games." And he was like, "Oh yeah, you're a Bengals fan? WhoDae?" And I was like, "WhoDae?" And I gave him a high five. Nobody in Columbus is like a big Bengals fan like that. Nobody says WhoDae in Columbus. So I thought it was pretty cool, but
the first date was Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah,
Stifler's mom.
At the funny bone.
So we're listening to her tell stories and having this side convo, and then she gives me a WhoDae back.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was in love.
You knew it right there.
Like your wife, Kevin, I don't know that I realized what I was in for necessarily, because I always called myself a Bengals fan, but I had never been to a game. Like, I didn't go to games growing up. It's not like my family had tickets. We were dirt poor. We could make it to maybe 1 or 2 Reds games a year, and that was it. That was it for me as a child. So I didn't grow up going to games. I didn't grow up, doing all that. So for me, it was more of I'm a Bengals fan. I love the Bengals. And I knew the team, and I worked in sports bars and Hooters and places like that where football's on all the time. So I watched a good amount of games, but I had never really been to a game until I met this guy. And now we are a year into our relationship. We have season tickets and we're at every single game.
I asked her, I saw the tickets. I'm like, "Hey, is it okay? Should we?" And she looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, "Of course." I'm like, all right, this girl's it.
Yep.
So was it like
she's the one?
Was it like a fever pitch thing where you had the opening day tickets in a ring box and you got down on one knee and it's like, oh, no? Oh, okay.
But we did have a lot of Bengals themes in our wedding. So.
Okay.
There we go.
I can imagine that. Being the case. All right. So next question, Cap, where did this captain persona come from? Was this like a thing where you saw, hey, you pieced it together over a few games or a couple years, or how did you get this idea you're going to start dressing like this?
So I idolized WhoDae Baby.
Okay.
And ironically, so I remember seeing WhoDae Baby on TV before we ever got season tickets, and we parked in lot 1. At the time, I wasn't big in the tailgating scene. We would walk by this awesome tailgate, which later I found out was Bengal Bomb Squad. Mm-hmm. And we just started saying, "Hey, let's get there earlier and help out and whatever, hang out." WhoDae Baby was there. I'm like, "That's cool. Like, I've seen you on TV, yada, yada." And I asked him, how did this all come together? Like, you're asking me. And he said, "I don't know. It was just organic. It just came to be, over time, but it fits him so perfectly. It's a little bit of WWE. It's a little bit of, the cowboy hat, different, some of it doesn't fit, but it all fits." And Big John, the guy who basically holds everything together, Bengal Bomb Squad, was contacted by Microsoft. They wanted to shoot a Surface commercial and use our tailgate. Cool. World famous, and I'm in IT, and we do a lot of IT things at the tailgate. So we went to do that, and I'm thinking, there are some amazing fans all around me, and here I am tucking my jersey into my cargo shorts. I've got to think it's something, but like WhoDae Baby said, it's organic. I don't have anything organic, except for I was working IT at a construction company, and trying to teach people about cybersecurity. I'm like, I'm going to have to grow out a beard for you guys to actually pay attention to me. So I did, and it came in kind of decent.
He didn't always have this beard.
Oh, yeah.
No.
When I met him, he
all right.
didn't have this beard. He was clean. There's a beautiful face under this beard. Not a lot of people know that. When I first met him, he was clean shaven. He didn't grow this beard until he started working in construction. So
all right.
So it was kind of cool, and I got 2 nicknames. Some people call me Conor McGregor, which I'm like, oh yeah. The other ones called me Captain Obvious at Hotels.com.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm thinking
the resemblance is there. To be fair, it really is.
Yeah,
a good way.
I can't run from it. I can't run from it. I try to say that I'm the better looking version, but you know what? He's that guy. Sadly, I know Brandon Moynihan. I know his name. I've searched for autographs. Like, I'm kind of a fan of his too. But anyway, that's what we tried, and had no idea how we're going to pull it off. Orange suits are easy to spot.
Right.
Amazon had neon, so we did that. We waited the night before. I sometimes am a procrastinator all the time. And we had overspray on the back. There was paint everywhere. It was ugly. I kind of messed it up, and I was disappointed. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to go. She said, no.
I worked all night on that hat.
Yeah.
And I said, you're wearing this hat that I worked all night on. You're going to wear it. And you're going to like it.
do it anyway. So we went, film crew came out, filmed the tailgate. That was 2017 opening day Ravens. We got shellacked. We got shut out. Andy Dalton, I think, had 4 picks. It was ugly. And people kept stopping me after the game and wanted to take a picture. Like, you know what? You're the first time I've smiled. That costume is just hilarious. Thank you. And I'm thinking, if I could get people to smile, because I knew we were going to be better. I knew, I talked to front office, different events, charity events we've been going to since, 2014, 2015. I knew our break was coming. If I can make some people laugh in the meantime, I'll keep wearing it. And I kept wearing it. And now I can't get rid of it, even in the Arizona heat.
Yeah.
No, you would disappoint quite a few people if you showed up just as yourself.
Yeah.
The persona is, you kind of inadvertently answered a question I had in the back of my head. I wasn't going to ask it, but it is funny that I couldn't remember when you started showing up on TV. You know what I mean? Like, it's now become kind of such a thing that, like, it's just, you're there. You're just kind of there's always at least one shot of you during almost every game. And I was sitting there trying to remember, like, yes. But yeah, I couldn't remember when it happened. It's kind of become just a part of the experience at this point, which has to be cool for you. But yeah, you kind of inadvertently answered a question I had in the back of my head about, like, I honest to God couldn't tell you when this whole thing started. It just feels like it's always been a part of the experience. And it's weird that it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it was longer ago.
It feels like it. And yeah, it was that year, actually, that I can't even remember. Was it the Patriots game? It started raining. And I had a poncho on, and I was just kind of dancing to the music, and the camera caught it. And then Coach Caskey, running backs coach at the time, actually sends me a clip later, like, "Hey, they caught you." And then it's been wild ever since.
That's awesome. How many suits do you have?
Usually only one.
One at a time.
Yeah, one at a time.
They get destroyed.
But I saved the cutoff because I ruined the sleeves in the off season.
Okay.
And again, procrastinator. I didn't have time to make a new one, so I just cut the sleeves off, and that worked out for the preseason game. Everybody loved it. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to hold on to this just in case we ever hit like 110. I don't want to die.
Sure, yeah.
Larry the Cable Guy, Captain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Oh, well, I did want to just jump in real quick and just ask you, Jess, just a little information about your podcast, a chance to plug it, because I don't know, I think it's one of the better ones out there. I think it's really, really interesting. Tigress Talk. Just tell us how it started, and how the experience has been, because you guys have been doing it a lot longer than we have.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's really awesome to hear. So basically, this is our 3rd season now. So a couple years ago, I decided that I wanted to start a podcast, and I'm kind of a procrastinator and a perfectionist in the way that, I'll sit on an idea for a long time and think a lot about it and kind of stew over it and think about all the ways it needs to be perfect, And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to jump in and it'll be what it'll be, but it'll be mine. It'll be me, and it'll be my personality and what I want to talk about, and my opinions on things. So I just put a tweet out there. I was like, do any other women want to start a women only podcast with me? And 3 people respond. Actually, well, 4 people. So I actually started it with Yaz. I don't know if you guys know Commissioner Yaz, but she was one of the main ones who was like, we got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do this. And then she kind of broke off, did her own thing, but I still give her credit as being one of the originators of the idea. But so it was basically me and her. And then Kayla and Jerry and Whitney all sent me a DM and were like, I'll do it. And so that's how we became the 4 people on Tigress Talk. And it's just been a lot of fun. I really love doing it, and the girls love doing it. And they're all really busy. They've all got a lot of stuff going on. And so not everybody can make it every week, but that's okay. We just roll with whoever we got that week, and we just talk about whatever we want to talk about. So we're usually Wednesday nights around 8:30-ish. We say 8:30-ish because usually I have to do it after I get home from work. So, my work schedule is kind of flexible. So, depending on what time I get off, depends on what time we start. So
awesome.
That is definitely one of the... Go ahead. Sorry, finish.
No, I just was going to say it's just Wednesday nights, usually around 8:30. So
yeah, that's
say that is one of the benefits of having multiple hosts, though, is that you don't necessarily need all 4. We've had to delay the podcast multiple times because even a minor technical issue that it just becomes one dude talking to a camera. I did not know it was intentionally started as a female-only podcast. That's cool. There's not a lot of women representation just in general in sports, and especially in the podcast world. I mean, I can think of maybe just a handful of people other than you. So I was going to ask that. I was just curious if it was intended that way or if it was just people you already knew and it just came to be that way. But
no, cool. I wanted it. It was very intentional. I wanted it to be only women. I feel like not enough women have a voice. And that's one thing that I love the most about this organization is that we've got Katie Blackburn, we've got Elizabeth Blackburn, and Caroline Blackburn are 3 really awesome women, successful women that are at the top. And of course, Emily Parker, Director of Communications. There are a lot of really awesome women in this organization. And they had an event not too long ago. They had a WhoBae Ladies event where they had a lot of the women in the front office. They also have like a woman CFO. They have, there's a lot of really powerful women in this organization. And I sort of felt inspired and empowered by them to kind of create a platform for just women. Now, our audience is obviously women and men, but I think a lot of the women in our fan base really gravitate towards it because they're like, you're talking about things that I want to hear about. We had Coach Caskey's wife, Kayla, do a segment called the Bombshell Breakdown, where her Twitter handle is NFL Bombshell. And so she would break down film, and she would break it down in a way that everybody could understand it. You didn't have to be way up here with all this football knowledge and be a coach and be whatever, play it on the field and things like that to be able to understand it. So that's kind of what we like to talk about, and what we like to do is just kind of bring it for everybody.
That's awesome.
Well, I fully recommend it. I've been a fan. I haven't caught every episode by a long shot. There's just too many podcasts to catch every episode of anything. But I've been a fan. I really have. I was listening to it maybe about a year back before we ever started doing our own podcast. It was one of the ones that we talked about a little bit, just talking about like our voice and what we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do. So just for the audience out there, fully recommend it. If you haven't given it a try, give it a listen.
It means so much to me. Thank you so much.
Oh, I mean it. I really do.
It's funny. We have to take a page out of your book because you said one thing I like that you said was that it's going to be me and it's going to be what I want. And there's a lot of times we've been doing this since we started after the Super Bowl, and which was terrible timing. We're going to wait till the offseason to start a football podcast. But a lot of times, like, we feel this pressure, like, hey, we have to talk about this because this is what everyone wants to hear. And I don't want to talk. If it was really up to us, I think we'd talk about the Bengals for 25 minutes and then like D&D or Warhammer for a half hour. But
there you go.
But
I think that's great.
Whatever. So, here's my question for you guys. It's not like the Bengals lose and I start beating my kids or anything like that, but like the Bengals affect my mood, unfortunately. You know what I mean? Like they lose, have a bad game or whatever, it kind of ruins my day. I know Kevin's the same way. Are you guys able to like detach yourselves from the Bengals, or like when there's a great game, does it make you happy? When there's a bad game, do you find yourselves having a hard time like finishing the rest of the day without having a terrible attitude about everything?
I'll let you answer this one.
You know what? It's a constant struggle. You know, a lot of talk. It just so happens today about mental health. You know, there was one video that was put out, and you know, I've got my struggles with ADD and some other things, and it's really hard because it'll tank a week, and it's that conscious effort of, and that's why I love more than anything going to the games and being around friends, because even after a horrible loss, that's not going to happen the rest of the year. You've got your people to kind of commiserate with, and I try to be positive. I try to be optimistic. You know, I used to be a negative person, and my life changed when I just tried to be optimistic. You know, I had better career opportunities. I had like everything improved. I'm like, okay, this is the way, but it's not easy to do all the time. So when I'm down, someone else picks me up, and I need that support group. So being there, that walkout, you hear so many WhoBae still, you know, somebody pat you on the shoulder, like, you know what, we'll get them next time. And that is so important to me. So it does affect absolutely me personally. You know, I think it does her, but you know, she'll say, but I wouldn't be anything without the other fans and the friends and the camaraderie to pick me back up. And like, you know what, this team, trust the process. You know, we've been at the lowest of lows. It seems like it's a cycle every year. The fans freak out in the beginning, and then we go on a roll. So that's life. And there are a lot of lessons to be learned from this team, from Zach, from the players who speak about the you know, peaks and valleys throughout the season. And I try to take that to heart.
That's a really good answer. Just so everybody knows, it's a great answer. Sorry, Jess, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. It was a great answer. Good job, honey. No, I prefer to just, I take the good for sure. Like, I am riding a high this week. You can't say nothing to me this week. You know, after a win, yes, absolutely. I am 100% on cloud nine. I love it. After a bad loss, honestly, because of my job and everything else, I'm able to just sort of like shut that part of my brain off and not really think about it that much. And as a result, it doesn't really affect me that much, but I also don't really want to talk about it. Like you said, you want your podcast to just be what you want to talk about. Last week on Tigress Talk, I was like, I don't want to talk about the game. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about all the good things that have happened to everyone this week. So, you know, it's just, I don't want to relive it when it's a bad game. I don't want to go through the film. I don't want to watch all the things. I don't want to hear everybody's opinions on why they think it's not working. I'm not really interested in it. But when it's going well and we're winning and we're doing great, absolutely. I want to see every film breakdown. I want to see that Joe Burrow scramble for a first down. I want to watch that 100 times on repeat. You know, it's like, I love when the Bengals are great, and it really does lift my mood. But when they're not so great, and we've all had those years, we've had a lot of bad years, you know, I'm able to just sort of just kind of shut it off and like Cap said, take the good from it with the friendships, and we always say we're undefeated at the tailgate. So, you know, it's a good time to hang out with friends, even when the Bengals aren't winning. And honestly, there's nothing we can do about it. So being so upset over it, in my opinion, is just not, it's easy to say and hard to do, but it's just really not worth it, because there's nothing you can do about it. Focus on the areas of your life that you can control. All the things that make you happy outside of that. That's my advice.
This is like going to therapy. Because I need to hear that stuff. I do.
See, I always say that I go to therapy so my friends and family don't have to. I just bring what I get from there, and we can all talk about it.
And if you didn't know, she actually can save lives, or unfortunately, sometimes she sees death. So her job. No. But you
Dr. Kevorkian.
You can help save people, but you know, sometimes it's the opposite of that, and families are there, and so for her to, that's an easy thing to click off.
Sure. No,
I'm certain you have to learn. Otherwise, that kind of job could mess you up a little bit, I imagine.
Yeah, you can't take it home with you. It will kill you.
So one thing that we've talked about a lot on our show is the things that we have. I do potato skins, and this is going to sound crazy, but like if I started, this is the Chiefs game, New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, I guess in 2021, the one that they won the division. I had leftover potato skins from New Year's Eve, and I cooked them and they won. And I was like, every game from here on out, potato skins. And Kevin will text me on Saturdays, do you have potato skins? Like, I got to go get them. I got to find them. They're out.
Yeah.
So he's got his things. Do you guys have your things? I got to do this or the Bengals won't win.
You know, I wish I could believe that any of that mattered.
No, trust me, you're just showing you're more mentally healthy than we.
My logical brain won't let me. But I will tell you, last year when we went on that big run, I was wearing a Blindside Images crop top, and my friend E owns Blindside Images, and free plug for E, but I love their stuff. And so I had on a Blindside Images crop top when they won that game in New Orleans, and then I was wearing one the next game that we won, and then I was like, oh my god, I have to wear a Blindside Images crop top to every single game. So even when it was really cold outside, I was like layering them in there, with all my layers, and I was like the kid on the Christmas Story. I can't put my arms down because I had so many layers on because I had to wear this crop top. So I do get a little superstitious. I'm a little stitious sometimes, but so far nothing has worked consistently this year.
No,
so I kind of feel like superstitions kind of start anew at the new year. So I haven't really found anything that I'm really holding on to yet. But there might be something. If we go on a big run, I might find something. I don't even know.
Them superstitions will creep up on you before you even realize it.
Yep.
Yeah,
like the shirt you're wearing. You didn't realize it, but suddenly there it is for the rest of the season.
Because we won those great games, and then we had that awful loss to the Browns, and I wasn't wearing one. So then it was like, okay, well, this is my fault. You want to take the blame in some weird way,
That's the part we always joke about too. Neither of us believe our superstitions can win a football game.
They don't win anything, but when they lose,
we will absolutely be. It's our fault. We lost. Yeah.
Still do them anywhere. The Bengal trailer. Those wild guys. They've been responsible for most of the away game tailgates, and they got Coolio to the Super Bowl tailgate party, which was phenomenal. And they do a gas can to the face. And the first time I heard it, I'm like, that doesn't sound like what I want to do.
Right.
And then I saw him make it, and I'm like, definitely not something I want to do. Because I really, for the large part, don't drink on game days because I can't yell and drink. Normally, pass out,
I yell louder when I drink.
So a Bengal bomb at the Bengal Bomb Squad. And then I'll run over to wherever Bengal trailer is and do the gas can to the face. And it's whatever mixture of probably gas station vodka and Kool-Aid.
Maybe also gasoline. We don't
in an actual gasoline can that they swear they don't use for actual gasoline, but I don't know.
They might.
Sure. And it's poured from the top of their little cart. They're making food.
They pour it in your face.
Yeah, gas can to the face. And I'll wave when I'm done. And I have to fight the urge because I used to be pretty good at the college party drinking games. I had to fight the urge to keep going because if I down the gas can, I'm out. I'm done. But we went on that streak. We won 10 games in a row. I'm like, all right, this is a thing now.
It's a lot of gas cans to the face.
All of our superstitions started in New Orleans. So I think it had something to do with the voodoo in New Orleans.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Big voodoo crowd.
It's also just a great game for superstitions to begin at. That was a great game. I feel like we're wrapping up here. That's about what we said, about 30 minutes, but I'm going to put you on the spot here for the people at home. This is being recorded a little bit early. We are currently 2-3, and I'm going to ask you guys predicting. I mean, what's your prediction? Where are we going to end up at the end of the season? What do you think?
You go first.
I honestly thought we would lose 3. But I had no idea that Joe's calf would be hurt. And I'm just going to say it. That was the reason for everything. He's very coy. Now he's kind of finally come out and admitted it. Like, yeah, it was worse. That last year, the appendectomy and everything, the appendix, that was worse. He later in the season said, well, yeah, it bothered me for a little longer. Then I'm like, Joe, I love you, man. But, but he probably shouldn't. He probably shouldn't say that to anybody because the opponents know. He's back. If he's not 100% back, he's 85% back. So we're good to go. I think we drop one more. If anything weird happens with injuries, 2 more at max. So I'm saying the at most 5 losses. This is still a good team. It's still a great team.
Very.
Yep. Nothing that hasn't changed. Still contenders.
Yeah, I don't know. I still maintain that it's really hard to win in the NFL. So I don't know how many more games we'll lose. It could be as many as 6 or 7, I think, but I hope not. But I think that we can still make the playoffs, even if we can't win the division for the 3rd year in a row, which would be amazing. The Ravens kind of scare me right now, as much as I hate to say it, but I think we could win the division, but I think we could definitely hit the wild card round and get hot in the playoffs again. So, I don't know. San Francisco's looking like a team that's possessed right now. And it's just, there's a lot of really great teams in the NFL right now. I mean, who would have thought Trevor Lawrence would be beating the Bills and playing lights out right now? So, I mean, I feel like we've got a lot of tough games coming up. So I don't know how many more we'll lose, but I do believe that we will make the playoffs. And I believe we could go on a deep run in the playoffs again.
No, I totally agree. It all comes down to getting hot at the right time.
Yeah, and injuries too.
I was just gonna say I fully agree with both of you. 12-5. I'm gonna push that till I'm proven wrong. Till we lose that 6th game. I believe we can do it. And also, I was pushing the number 1 seed at the beginning of the season. That's no longer the goal. Playoffs are the goal. If we get in, the whole game resets, and we get to start this whole thing over again. So I'm right there with both of you on it.
But I mean, the Bills have lost a couple. The Chiefs have lost one at least, right? But
they haven't looked good in every one of their. That Vikings
lost to the Vikings.
That if the refs stay out of the Jets and the Vikings games, then they could have 3 losses also.
I think it's going to be a pretty tight race.
Weird how often we talk about the refs as far as the Chiefs are concerned.
But it's not just us; it's all other.
It's everybody.
30 fan bases, so that's
it's everybody. Yeah.
Finally, people are fed up with it.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been great getting to know you guys. I know people, just Bengals fans all over are going to enjoy kind of getting to know the personas behind Bengals Captain and WhoBae. So it's super exciting just to, get everyone to know, everyone, just Bengals fans to know each other. So thank you guys so much again for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you. Absolutely. Remember, we're on the Orange and Black Insider. Where you can find us on YouTube. You can find us anywhere that podcasts are streamed. Just follow and like. We'll have another one of these next month, and we'll let you know when we find out who it's going to be. So thank you guys again very much. Bengals Captain, Jess, Kevin. I'm Jason. Thank you guys again. Have a good night and WhoDae.
WhoDae.
WhoDae.